Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'm going to be doing a set review for the set Battle Partners. So the first evolution line that we can take a look at here is going to be Butterfree, and I just want to say the artwork for these guys is great, love the artwork, even though the pre-evolutions themselves aren't really going to be doing much. But yeah, Butterfree itself sadly isn't very good, like maybe a fun budget deck, definitely more of a GLC card potentially. But as it stands for standard, yeah, not very good, sadly, which is a shame. So yeah, holding out for a good Butterfree card. Then we get to Parasect. Again, lovely artwork, but just very filler, terrible attacks. We've got a Maractus, which it isn't too bad actually. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. Could be good. But aside from that, and combo's nicely with Jet Energy, by the way. But aside from that, yeah, definitely more of a GLC card or something for the collectors. Then we see a Carablast, which isn't relevant until later on, until we get to like the stage one. But yeah, then we have an Excelgor line, which again isn't super good. It is for 2 energy, which is like the big downside. But 70 damage, confusion plus poison. I mean, if we weren't losing Radiant Sneasler, then maybe it could be okay, but to be honest, I just don't see this being very good. So yeah, bit of a shame. Then we get to Meowscarada. Quite a powerful ability. The attack also isn't terrible, so I could maybe see a world where this is a solid budget deck for a new player. But the thing is, we don't actually have like a double colorless energy style card post rotation. Like we don't have a double turbo substitute basically. We have reverse energy right now, but we don't have anything else. So you'd have to rely on like Ogerpon and Energy Switch, which isn't very, beginner budget friendly and very awkward. So yeah, sad I don't think Meowscarada is super good. Then we have Magmortar here, which has a very powerful ability which increases burn damage by 3. It is also worth mentioning that we have Volcanion EX, which just inflicts the burn special condition when it's in the active spot, once per turn, which is quite nice. But of course, you could just run this with other Pokemon that inflict burn. Quite good in GLC, to be honest. A lot of potential partners there, especially the Centiskorch. But as for standards, yeah, nothing really too impressive outside of Volcanion EX, maybe. But yeah, a very powerful effect that will stack, but do be careful because Magmar has 8 HP and thus cannot be found with Buddy Puffin. Similar situation for Ends Darmuka, actually, with 8 HP. Yeah, Ends Darmanian is honestly really solid. Both Backdraft and Darman Eye Cannon are really good attacks against the right decks. Backdraft, especially against Ceruledge, but Darman Eye Cannon's honestly just really good on the second turn of the game. If you don't know how the Ends deck works, basically Ends Zoroark EX says you basically just choose one of your Ends Pokemon's attacks that's on the bench and use that as this attack, and it's for 2 Dark Energy, so you can basically spend 2 Dark Energy on an End Zoroark to copy Darman Eye Cannon turn 2 and do 90 damage and then 90 damage snipe. And currently post rotation, there isn't actually a Manaphy substitute lined up. There's not one in this set, so until we get one, it's basically going to be Rabaska for bench protection. And yeah, Rabaska can't really be set up in one turn, so yeah, Darmanian looks to be quite the devastating tech card in the End Zoroark EX deck. So yeah, quite a scary card to watch out for in the future. But yeah, as mentioned before, Volcanion EX can inflict burn. Heat Cyclone is just whatever, so this is kind of like I guess a worse version of Gouging Fire in many ways. But if you are playing Latias EX to switch out Pokemon, then, it's a free extra 20 damage. You may as well play it, sort of thing. But yeah, other than that, it's alright. I got this new Articuno, which sadly isn't very good. It's just not a very good card, sadly. But, definitely something for GLC and one for the collectors, so that's fun. We've got an Octillery, which is going to swim straight to the bulk pile, maybe quite fun in GLC. We've got a Ludicolo, again, GLC. I think the only deck you'd really want to play Ludicolo in Standard is maybe Mamoswine, just for some really funny HP, because Mamoswine already has 340 HP base. But yeah, aside from that, I don't think Ludicolo is very good. We have a Wailord with the attack Hydro Pump, which can do a lot of damage, but you need like 5 or 6 energy before you're even doing relevant numbers, and that's just a lot of work on a stage 1 Pokemon. And post-rotation, we won't have Irida. So yeah, it's going to be a bit rough for Wailord post-rotation. No Irida. You can still play like Baxcalibur, right? But yeah, I just don't think this is going to be very good, which is a shame because I love this artwork and Wailord is one of my favorite Pokemons. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame. Hopefully, we get a Wailord EX and it's good. Then we have the Iono's Pokemon, and honestly, I don't think this deck is going to be very good. I think it's decent. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's like pure bulk filler trash or anything, but it's definitely not going to be like an S tier archetype. At least I don't think so. But yeah, Iono's Voltorb has the attack Chain Bolt, does 20 damage, and then 20 more damage for each light energy attached to your Iono's Pokemon, which in theory could get quite scary because, you know, we've got Belly Bolt to attach as many light energy from your hand to your Iono's Pokemon as often as you like. So in theory, this should be really efficient, and you know, Kilowattrel's in here with some extra draw support, which is cool. But in all honesty, I just don't think you're doing quite enough damage. And Voltorb is very fragile, right? So you can't stack like 10 energy on Voltorb. You have to split them up across the board. But even if you do that, you're going to be giving ground. Your opponent takes prizes, you lose energy in play. I think it could get very awkward very quickly. So yeah, I don't have a huge ton of faith in this deck. Like, it seems like a lot of fun to play. Like, I really enjoyed playing Frostmoth decks when that was in standard. But yeah, as it stands, I don't think this deck is going to be super great. Hopefully I'm wrong though. Hopefully I'm wrong on this because it does look like a lot of fun. But yeah, as it stands, not really sold on the Iono deck. Then we have Ends Joltik, which we can read. 30 damage, discard all 2 cards, does paralysis if you do. It's whatever. I don't see why Zoroark would ever sacrifice a turn to paralyze, and also a bench slot for Joltik when it only has 40 HP, so it's just going to get sniped by Dusclops. Yeah, I don't think this card is very good, sadly, but it's kind of cute. It's a cute tag card. Then we get to Lillie's Clefairy, 190 HP, so on the fragile end, but it is worth noting that the main gimmick, I guess, of Clefairy and Lillie's Pokemon in general is there is Lillie's Pearl, which is a tool card that says your Lillie's Pokemon, well, the card this Pokemon's card is attached to, gives up one less prize. So you can basically just turn this into a one prizer, which is really cool. So the weakness of each of your opponent's Dragon Pokemon, not Ends Pokemon, that is the End symbols, that's for Dragon. Dragon Pokemon in play is now Psychic. So you basically just give things like Dragapult and the new Salamence, which we'll look at later on, weakness Psychic, which is really cool. And then Full Moon Rondo, we've seen this attack a million times before in the TCG up to this point, so yeah. Nothing like drastically new in this archetype, but the main appeal, of course, is turning Clefairy into a one-prize Pokemon, so that's cool. But we also have Mr. Rhyme. I'm not going to do anything for this deck. We can skip Banette for now, skip Metagross rather, skip Sigilif. We'll just come back to those Pokemon in a second. But yeah, Lillie's Rabombi just says when you evolve it, you can choose any number of base Pokemon from your opponent's hand to put them onto their bench, and basically just force out the damage for Clefairy. Also, both of these Pokemon have free retreat, which is lovely. And you've also got Lillie's Comfey to basically just accelerate a bunch of basic Pokemon from your deck. So that's really cool. And of course, these Pokemon can be turned into 0 prize Pokemon with that tool card. So honestly, it doesn't seem like the worst archetype. Like, it has decent setup. The damage isn't really that good, but aside from that, the Lillie's deck doesn't seem that bad. Then we have Banette, which has the attack Curse Speech. Personally, I don't rate this card very highly, but I've seen some more competitive players who think this card could be disgusting, could be broken. Personally, I just don't see it, but maybe I'm horribly wrong on this front, and Banette ends up being the next S tier control deck. But yeah, a bit scary if it is, but aside from that, I'm not really too worried right now. We have a new Metagross line, which is basically just beat for beat the Vikavolt that came around recently, which is quite funny. But yeah, Joint Beam can do 280 damage for 2 Psychic, which is quite nice, but only if Beldum and Matang are on your bench, which is a very easy requirement, but what's not an easy requirement is just chaining stage 2 attackers, right? 170 HP, very fragile in this day and age, to be honest, and you also need 2 Psychic Energy, so you kind of have to use things like EXP Share, Xatu, I guess. Maybe get a thin line of Xatu in the deck. Also act as a draw engine. That could be quite good. But yeah, aside from that, not a particularly great Metagross, but certainly a fun budget deck to try when the set drops. But yeah, aside from that, nothing too crazy. We've got an End Sigilif, so quite a fun attack. Basically just means that you can play the End Zork deck on a 5-prize card mapping, which is really cool. So if you take the first 2 prizes with Darmanitan, then KO an EX Pokemon with a Zoroark, and then you have to basically just take one more prize card after that, and then you can use Victory Symbol to win the game. So quite cool, to be honest, for the ends deck. Aside from that, nothing too crazy, and Kung Fu just talked about. We've got a Swinub here, which does have Call for Family, which is pretty relevant actually for the deck. Also 70 HP, so Buddy Buddy Puffin range. Piloswine sadly doesn't do anything, but looks adorable. Mamoswine EX, I'm honestly not super sold on this card, but I do think it looks like a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. It's just the fact that you need 2 fighting energy. That's like the most annoying thing about this card, I think. Like the fact that you need 2 fighting energy, it's just a bit awkward. But 340 HP, very tanky. Rumbling March can do decent damage if you get stuff like Pidgeot in play, like the Lux Ray that basically just puts itself onto the bench when you're behind on prizes. You could play Kling Clang, which just says if your opponent has a stage 2, then you can put Kling Clang onto the bench, but I think Lux Ray is probably enough actually in the deck, as well as Pidgeot. So, I mean, you could also run this with Dusknoir if you really wanted to, which would also fix some maths sometimes. So, that's kind of cool. But yeah, Mamoswine looks to be a lot of fun when it drops. We've got a new Pupitar line, but no Tyranitar because he's fighting type. Got a Regirock for GLC, which is nice, but it's not a super good Regirock, but it is a Regirock nonetheless. We've got a Pancham for the Pangoro later on. We've got a Rockruff, which is okay, to be honest, and then this Lycanroc, which at the very least is interesting, right? So I think with this card, you basically just use things like Rotom in the early game just to poke for 70, and then Grabbing Fangs basically just finishes them off, no matter how much HP they have. So I think that's the plan here. Is it a good deck? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, Spike Energy with that Grabbing Fangs attack would then mean that the next attacker your opponent uses would take a bit of damage, and then maybe you could soften them up between turns with Frostlass, maybe use Burn, with Magmortar. Could be fun, but yeah, aside from that, I don't think this is going to be anything special, but, a cute budget deck to try, basically. Then we have Hop Sandaconda, which by itself isn't that impressive, but we do have to factor in that Hop also has some crazy damage modifiers, like it's at least plus 90, if I remember correctly. So yeah, this can do crazy damage, but I don't think you really want to play this in much. I mean, Ground Break could be a nice tech option against like what do you call it, Miraidon, if you're already playing like Reverse Sound Junior deck, but I mean that seems like a lot of work just to get a stage 1 in play. You could definitely play like a Sandaconda deck just with Hop's support, but you're probably not really doing a lot at that point. I guess some like stall trapping and maybe some chaos with Ground Break, but nothing too crazy. We have a Cloth, which it's really funny artwork. But yeah, Close Cut Scissors, flip 2 coins for each heads, discard energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Could be very disruptive, but has a similar problem to the Cloth deck we have right now, which is no double colorless reprint. So, yeah, could struggle a bit there. We have a new Coughing and Wheezing, and this evolution line just makes me, it just makes me sad actually, because I love Wheezing as a Pokemon, and seeing him get terrible cards like this is, yeah, it's a bit sad, but definitely more of a GLC piece. Then we have a Tyranitar, which has the ability Daunting Gaze. While this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent can't play any item cards from their hand, which is pretty good. Of course, your opponent could just boss around this, but, it's still a very disruptive effect. And then Crackling Stomp does 150, and you get to mill 2 from your opponent's deck. I honestly think this will be a lot of fun as just like a casual stage 2 deck for ladder. I don't think this will be that competitive, even if, you're using like Budew in the early game, and then you follow it up with Tyranitar and Crackling Stomp, because, I guess best case scenario is you start the game with Budew, and then you kind of use Great Tree to try and set up a bunch of Tyranitars, so you can always have the item lock, but, I mean, even then, 190 HP is quite fragile, so... Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of fun, right, as a budget deck, but yeah, that's Tyranitar. We have a Proleon, but no Liepard, which... yeah, apparently N didn't have a Liepard, so that's why only Proleon is in the list. But Pilfer does 20, and then your opponent reveals their hand. There's like some weird disruption going on with the N's deck between this card and Joltik, but they're just not doing enough damage to make it worth it, so that's a bit of a shame. Zora is in Puffin range, that's all that matters really. And Zoroark EX, a very, very powerful card, and I do think this will still be a pretty good deck. Again, I don't think it's anything S tier, but it does look like a lot of fun. So yeah, very powerful ability trade. Once in your turn, discard a card, draw 2. Basically just means you don't have to rely on other draw engines. And then Night Joker for 2 Dark Energy, choose one of your benched ends Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So yeah, you probably want to copy just things like Sigilif, the Dormantian, and then the Ends Reshiram, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, this is honestly a very solid deck to come out of the set. Probably one of the better decks, actually. But yeah, definitely not a bad card overall. Then we've got Pangoro, which this is bulk actually. Why am I looking at this card? That's bulk. We've got an Escavalier, which hasn't been translated, but it just does 120 for 2 and then can't attack next turn. Not very good. We have an Ends Klinklang for the truly brave in the Zoroark deck. I mean, it's a stage 2, but the fact that you have Zoroark with the trade engine probably means you can get one of these set up quite easily. But triple smash, 120 damage, flip 3 coins, you do 120 for each heads. 2 heads, you do 240, which is pretty good. 3 heads, you one-shot anything in the game, including Mamoswine. I mean, that could be good, just as like a very thin line, and then maybe like a 1 copy of Rare Candy or something weird. Like, maybe it could work in the Ends deck, maybe. But yeah, seems kind of terrible, to be honest. Magearna, I don't like this card. Hops Corviknight, sorry. Yeah, I don't think Magearna is very good. I've got Hops Corviknight, actually, maybe in Archetype. Maybe in Archetype. Okay, I've got Hops Corviknight. This could be okay as a budget deck if you call the Hops deck cheap. Like, you could throw like Hops Choice Band on this, and then all of a sudden its attacks cost 1 colorless less, and also do plus 30 damage. The Postwick Stadium to increase your damage by plus 30, the Snorlax to increase your damage by plus 30. And then, of course, you're already playing Metal Energy because you're probably playing Zacian, so I think the Hops, Zacian, Cramorant, Snorlax deck will exist without the Corviknight, but you could still build something in theory around Corviknight as well. So it's cool that they at least put some effort into some of these cards. So yeah, Corviknight seems okay. And then we have Zacian EX, I guess the more expensive version of Corviknight. Close Cleave, a nice sniping move, and then Brave Slash doing 240. But yeah, of course, the Choice Band just reduces his attack cost by 1 colorless. So you still probably want to play things like Archaladon or Metang, but honestly, this just seems like such a good card with the damage modifiers. So yeah, Close Cleave, going to be a very scary attack in the new format, especially when, you know, Budyu's running around and you can KO Budyu, so that's cool. If you don't like Budyu, this deck will be very good against Budyu, I'm guessing. So yeah, that's cool. Then we have a new Salamence line, which is pretty cool. Its attacks are very expensive though, so we have to work out a way of like powering this guy up. I think the best way might actually just be Flareon EX, funnily enough, just accelerating 2 energy from the deck, because Flareon already plays water and fire in its attack cost, so you may as well like throw some lightning in the deck while you're at it, so you just can attack with Flareon if you really need to. But yeah, Salamence and Flareon could be a nice pair for each other, but yeah, it's a cool card, don't get me wrong, and it's definitely not like an S-tier EX Pokemon, of course, but definitely a lot of fun to try out, so yeah, looking forward to trying this out with Flareon at the very least. We've got Druddigon, which can accelerate an energy from your discard pile to one of your dragon Pokemon. Okay, I guess this is like the answer for Salamence, but only 1 energy with Druddigon. You know, it's yeah, it's not very good, sadly. We've got Ends Reshiram with the attack Powerful Rage, does 20 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon, and then Virtuous Flame does 170. So these will be like the main attacks you'll want to copy with Ends Zoroark, basically. So this is probably going to be at least a 2 of in that deck. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Then we've got Hops Snorlax, which isn't much of an attacker by itself, but does increase all your Hops Pokemon damage by plus 30. So again, a bit of a staple in that deck. We have a Furret, which is pure bulk, even though it's a bit cute, it is just bulk. Dunsparce, cool wool artwork. Dunsparce EX. Don't think this is very good. Drill Break is like whatever, and then Adversary Tail, not doing a lot of damage. I mean, if your opponent has like 4 Zoroark EX in play, you can do 240 for 1 colorless, which I suppose isn't terrible, but like, it's not great either. I guess if you're playing like the Dunsparce engine, full stop, you could throw one of these in the deck, so that's nice, but aside from that, nothing too crazy. We have a Noivern, which is kind of like a reprint of the Omega from, I think it was Steam Siege or something along those lines from the XY era. But yeah, still only doing 110 damage though, plus some additional confusion, but you're not hitting anything for weakness, which is a bit rough. 110 isn't a lot. So, you have to find a way of maybe modifying that damage. Otherwise, it's like a 3-shot against most of the meta decks, which is a bit rough. I know they're kind of like throwing confusion out in there to like try and make it easier for you, but it just seems like an awful lot of work really just to do 110 damage. So definitely more of a GLC piece, sadly. I know I said GLC a lot in this video already, but yeah, definitely more of a GLC card. But I'm up for giving this a go if they would print some more damage modifiers. Then we've got a Koala with Goodnight Knocking, does 30 damage, both active Pokemon are now asleep. During your next turn, attacks used by this Pokemon do 100 more damage. Okay, so this is not very good. I don't know why I read that. We've got Rookie D and Corvuswire. Again, maybe some more GLC fodder just because you have so many damage modifiers. Hops Wooloo, very cute. Hops Double. I don't think this card will be that good, but in a world where Boss's Orders maybe rotates, then this could be a good like 1-1 line in some decks, maybe even in the Hops deck. So maybe as it is, it's okay actually, just so you don't have to run Boss. But yeah, could be okay. Then Hops Cramorant, honestly one of the best cards in the set. 1 Colorless Energy, Fickle Spit does 120. And if your opponent doesn't have exactly 3 or 4 Power cards remaining, this attack does nothing. Well, who cares, because you just did 120. So yeah, 120 for 1 Colorless Energy, but if we use the Hops Choice Band, which is down here, that attack cost is actually 1 colorless less, and you're doing 30 more damage. So you just need the Choice Band to do 150 for no energy, which is crazy. Then Postwick takes it to 180, which 2-shots everything. And then, of course, you just add like Snorlax to do 210, which is, yeah, it's still pretty crazy. So yeah, very, very scary card. I think this could see play outside of the Zacian deck and maybe in some other decks. So yeah, really cool card. Super Potion. I don't care about Super Potion. Maybe in our child, I don't know. Ends PP up. Attach your basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched Ends Pokemon. Yep, definitely a very solid 4 of in the Ends Zoroark EX deck. Definitely helps with that weird attack cost of 2 Dark Energy, as well as the fact that, of course, Darmanitan does discard all your energy, which is important. So, yeah, this item definitely will be good for that. We've got Exchange Ticket, which honestly could be quite nice, actually. It does help with prize manipulation, so I do think this is a nice one-of in some decks, maybe. I don't think it's as good as Talon Map was, but, still pretty good. Then we have Hops Bag, some crazy support. They really, really push the Hops deck in this set. But yeah, Hops Bag, search your deck for up to 2 basic Hops Pokemon, put them onto your bench. Means you can find Cramorant and Zacian just as easily as if they had Poth and HP, basically, which is a bit insane. I think they should have printed this for like Iono or something, rather than give all the attention and love to Hop, but, is what it is. Hops Choice Band, probably the best card in the set, actually. When the Hops Pokemon this card is attached to uses an attack, that attack costs 1 colorless less and does 30 more damage, which is just insane. It's a very crazy double effect. So, yeah, a very, very scary tool card. Then we have Lillie's Pearl, as mentioned earlier, which just reduces the prize cards taken when this Lillie's Pokemon gets KO'd, which is definitely going to be a 4 of, I think, in the Lillie's deck, which is cool. Then we have Iris's Fighting Spirit. Discard a card from your hand if you do draw cards until you have 6 in your hand. I don't know why they keep reprinting this effect. It was on Rev Room, then Kilowattrel, and now Iris. It's a really popular effect in the TCG right now, and I don't know why. But yeah, it's an okay supporter, I guess, especially for new players. We've got Ruffian and Brock Scouting. I may as well scroll the way down. Ruffian, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon, discard a tool card and a special energy. I mean, this might be one of the only ways of actually removing tools post-rotation, so that's, something to bear in mind. And then Brock Scouting could be okay, actually, but again, it's your supporter for turns, so it's a bit dicey. Maybe if we lose Poffin in the future, I guess. I've got Ends Castle. Each Ends Pokemon in play, both yours and opponents, has no retreat cost. Just means that, Darmanitan can't really get stuck in the active spot because it has a high retreat cost of 3. Or Reshiram, you just want Zoroark in the active spot to attack. So, yeah, Ends Castle seems like a good substitute for Switch in that deck if you just play Ends Pokemon. We've got Levincia, which says once during each player's turn, that player may put up to 2 basic energy cards from the discard pile into their hand. So, just really good in that Iono's deck. Also, maybe just some Rhydon builds in general for recycling some energy. So, that's cool. We've got Postwick, which is the infamous plus 30 damage on all your Hops Pokemon. Yeah, very, very scary stadium for Zacian and Cramorant. And then Spike Energy just says when this Pokemon is damaged or even KO'd, put 2 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So yeah, honestly, I think this set is in all honesty, I said it again. In all honesty, is a bit underwhelming. I think they could have done a bit more for some of the archetypes, and I really thought they would have done like an N supporter, for example. I thought they would have done a Lillie supporter, a new Iono supporter, which they didn't do, a new Hop supporter, which they didn't do. I feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities with this set, and there's like a shocking amount of just very, very bland, boring cards, I think. There are some fun ones, like Salamancer's okay, Mamoswine looks pretty solid. Some fun rogue budget decks thrown in, but a lot of bad cards as well. So yeah, curious to know what everyone else thinks though, so do let me know what you think down below. This has been Emma Power, and yeah, thank you for watching.